I don't want no oil, a spoil in my shoreline. I like fish much better than crud. I like birds and things a creeping and crawling. Won't trade no more oil for blood. The sun done give us all we need to make this country run. But that black demon oil's got us fussing and fighting, and I do believe it's time we was done. I don't want them nukes run by them kooks who think radioactivity is fun. No more three-headed frogs or kids with leukemia. Nuclear power ain't fit for a dog. The sun done give us all we need to make this country run. But that nuclear power's got us fussing and fighting, and I do believe it's time we was done. No nukes!
Good morning, Toledo, and good afternoon, Columbus, and hello to all of you listening on the internet, wherever and whenever you are. This is Joe Damar, and you've tuned into For a Green Future. And For a Green Future is a show where we talk about the environment and ecology in terms of how it's going to affect you, your family, your health, your wealth, your happiness. And we do it with my co-host every week, Rebecca, and we're very happy to have her, and we're also happy we're going to have a guest on today at 8:15, Diane D'Arrigo from NIRS, Nuclear Information Resource Service, will be on talking about the crazy plan to move all the nuclear waste of the country into one location where the terrorists can get at it more conveniently. And then we're going to have hear from our wonderful sponsors, have a very brief update on House Bill 6, something that we can't seem to not cover on this show. But we have just a short update coming up, and then we're going to talk a little bit about some various things, some Shark Week, talk about sharks a little bit, and a sad story of the Christmas weed, I guess. And we also would like to hear from you. This is a call-in show, and we value your calls at 866-240-1065. That's 866-240-1065. Call any time in this hour, and we will literally drop everything and take your call because we love to hear from you. And I actually have a question for everyone today. Have you seen personal evidence of the algal blooms? Have you been to the lake? Do you look at the shore? Have you seen dead fish? We hear about these things on the news, but it can be kind of academic. It can be kind of theoretical. Oh, yeah, an algal bloom. But what about, personal experiences? Have you got something to report to the rest of us? Have you seen something you think we should all know about what's happening out there on Lake Erie? If so, give us a call at 866-240-1065. So I might sound a little tired today because it's been Fair Week in Bowling Green down there at the Wood County Fairgrounds, and I've been at the booth for the Wood County Green Party all week, and I've noticed that the numbers are down this year. Numbers are definitely down. And it's not just me. I also went over to the donor cause, I believe, is the fact that the farmers weren't able to plant this year, that we had so much rain at the beginning of the year. A lot of fields went completely unplanted, and so the farmers simply don't have the money. They can't afford to go to the fair this year. So it's pretty sad, but it's one of those effects of global warming. And I know the skeptics are going to right away say, Joe, we've always had incidents, but no, not like this. We're having new kinds of incidents right now.
It's supposed to be knee-high by the 4th of July, and people did not even have it planted.
Right.
By the 4th of July this year. Some smart aleck had a picture of a Barbie doll on the on Facebook with the corn up to its knee this year.
Oh. Yeah, kind of pretty sad. And as I was driving in this morning, I was driving up Dixie Highway there between Bowling Green and Toledo, and I saw what I thought was fog. I saw a fog bank, but it turned out when I got up in there that it was actually a farmer was finally tilling his fields, was disking it, and it was just dust. It was just making this huge cloud of dust because it's even though it was raining, last Monday we had a tremendous deluge thanks to global warming now because there's more CO2 in the air. It rains harder, but it also dries more quickly. It evaporates back up into the air, so those fields are already kind of dusty. Plus, it's also one of the side effects of this no-till agriculture. That the agribusiness's response to organic farming, which organic farming depends on putting organic matter into the soil and having a healthy ecosystem of bugs and plants and little microscopic things. So that the no-till people came up and said, no, we've got to do no-till agriculture. And so that's an agriculture that relies on essentially sterilizing the soil. You don't dig it up with a plow, and yes, there's organic matter sitting on it, but it's also depends on so much herbicide and pesticides to keep weeds and other things from growing that you end up putting more chemicals in the ground, and you actually hurt your biota, the living things. Yeah, there's organic matter laying there on top, but it's not this nice, rich, deep, thick humus that you get with organic farming that holds water and gives you a nice, dark, rich soil. Instead, what you get is essentially piles of dust, and that's what I saw when I went in today. This huge pile of dust. And normally in the spring, one thing that didn't happen this year, as I was driving down Dixie Highway, is they didn't have the huge clouds of ammonia and herbicides and pesticides. Literally, sometimes in the spring when they're out spraying those fields full blast, it's like I live on a different planet. It's like I live, a planet that has a lot of ammonia in the atmosphere. So I think that organic farming is definitely the way to go. And I think that if a lot more farmers had organic farms instead of these no-till farms and these quote-unquote traditional agriculture farms that are so dependent on chemicals and plowing and so forth, I think we would have had more people at the fair.
Probably so, yeah.
Yeah.
So the no-till thing, that's good because it's supposed to be good because there's less erosion? Is that the deal?
Right.
Okay.
That's the deal. If you don't plow up the ground, then less of it goes into the water. Oh, I think we have a question here. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
So, just a little technical glitch there, but it actually wasn't a glitch.
Okay.
So, yeah, did anybody else get out to the fair this year, and do you agree that the crowds aren't so good? You can call us at 866-240-1065. And the whole question of do you work with the environment or do you work against the environment? And if you're using no-till, I mean, yes, you've got organic matter laying there, dead organic matter from the year before. So, yes, there's less erosion, but you're still not creating a healthy ecosystem in your fields. You've got something that you've got to pour tons of chemicals in. And I was listening to a radio show on another channel where they were talking to some extension agents, and they were talking about this whole crisis here. And one of them got real wistful, and he was like, and a lot of the farmers haven't even treated their fields this year. And I'm like,
bummer.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's what you're worried about? The fact that they haven't sprayed tons and tons of chemicals, that they haven't bought everything they usually buy from Monsanto. That's the thing. You're like, he was of the opinion that they should be out there spraying stuff and paying for it and buying it, even if they don't have any crops. They should just, on principle, be spraying lots of chemicals on the ground.
It's interesting you refers to this as treatment, sort of like, the fields are some sort of a disease that needs to be treated with this crazy chemo thing.
Right. Yeah. It's not right. It's not a cooperative attitude with the ground, And also, I also heard something that was kind of troubling to me from a socioeconomic point of view. I had somebody, or I heard in a radio interview someone talking about some farmers getting out there in the field because they are sympathetic to their landlords. The idea is that they have to get something in, they have to get some kind of crop growing this year for the benefit of their landlords, because so many farmers have lost their farms and now they're just essentially employees, and they're working the fields for somebody else, but they have apparently a lot of them still feel this emotional attachment to the people that are sort of employing them. And I couldn't help but think of, serfs back in the Middle Ages who were tilling the land for the lords, and literally it's the landlord that they're working for, not themselves.
Oh, when you've been doing that for a few generations, that same job, you feel like making stuff grow is part of your identity. I think, I think it gets down to that.
Right. So that's sort of an update from farmland here, because Wood County is primarily an agricultural district there. So,
did you hear what the farmer said when they asked him when he won the lottery and they asked him what he was going to do with the money?
No. What did he say?
He said, "Well, I reckon I'll just farm until it's gone."
Yeah, that's how it's worked today. And it's funny because that's sort of what happened in the Roman Empire too, is that they had all these soldiers that went out and conquered the world. When they came back, they gave them little plots of land, but the plots were too small to be economical, so they'd go into debt, and then they'd get sold into slavery, and et cetera. And then the Roman Empire collapsed. So that's it in a nutshell. If you want to impress your history teacher, just
that'll learn them.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have been told that our wonderful guest is on the line, and Diane, are you with us?
I am.
Hi. How are you doing down there? You're in Washington, D.C., is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Well, I wanted to have you on, and you're with Nuclear Information Resource Service, or NIRS as it's called. And I wanted to ask you on to talk about this plan, this scheme, to take all the nuclear waste from all these power plants all over the country and put them on trucks and train cars and ship them all to a central location. This sounds kind of crazy to me, and I know you're an expert in this field. How does it sound to you?
It's one of the most dangerous bills that is threatening the country today. It would trigger an unprecedented movement of high-level radioactive waste, irradiated fuel, the hottest part of the nuclear power and weapons fuel chain. This is radioactive material. Each of these trucks would have the same more plutonium than was in the Nagasaki bomb, more cesium than was released at Chernobyl in each of the truck or train casks. And these would be moved on our roads and rails routinely for 40, 50 years to a location, either to Yucca Mountain, which is a lousy site that can't isolate the waste and violates environmental justice. That's Yucca Mountain in Nevada, which is targeted as a permanent dump, or to a supposedly interim site in Texas or New Mexico that would theoretically move again in 40 years to a permanent site. So anyway, these are bills in Congress. These are concepts and threats of high-level nuclear waste moving through Ohio, moving through 44 of the U.S. states, 87% of congressional districts. Votes for these bills are votes for nuclear waste coming through and changing the whole picture of nuclear waste and of the dangers of moving on our roads and rails, the danger to millions of people along the routes who live there, and also all of us who travel on major highways and railways and waterways.
So if they were to start doing this, and if they were to put some of these spent fuel rods in a truck, and you were on the turnpike and driving along next to one of these things unknowingly, I mean, I'm assuming they're not going to put big signs on them saying, nuclear waste, watch out.
Well, they are required to placard to have a big 7 and the symbols, the transport symbols.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it has to say radioactive, but yes, this would be on our roads and rails. We could end up stopped at a traffic stop or a traffic jam next to one of these.
And then would you be getting irradiated? Would you be getting some radiation if that were the case?
Yes, you would. If you're near these containers that are on the roads, rails, or waterways, if you're near them, they are so radioactive that even heavily shielded containers cannot shield all of the radioactivity that is being emitted. So even under regular conditions with no accident and no leak, the radioactivity that is given off can penetrate through the shielding and be detected for quite a distance from each container. Be detected with a detector, not be detected with our normal senses. You can't see, smell, taste, hear, feel ionizing radiation, but it can cause damage even if you don't know that you're being exposed.
Right. So it would be a case where this is a plan not just to move nuclear waste, but this is a plan to irradiate us, to irradiate the general population. I don't want to have to start carrying a Geiger counter in my car. I mean, that is not a reasonable thing. So the wastes right now are sitting at these nuclear power plants in the places where they were generated, and it is costing money to maintain them. They've got to have people watching them. Is the basis of this bill largely economic? Is this mostly the country the federal government trying to help out companies like First Energy and other companies that own nuclear power plants? Is that the main push for this?
Well, that's one of the pushes. Another push, which is made evident when you listen to the hearings in the House and the Senate, is to justify new nuclear power. Not only subsidizing keeping old, dirty, dangerous reactors operating, like just passed in Ohio, HB6, but
yes,
also
the hated
justifying,
HB6.
but also to justify new nuclear power. I mean, it's clear that is a large part of the motivation to provide an illusion of a solution to nuclear waste. Because, to be clear, none of this is an answer. Yucca Mountain, which is the proposed and canceled in 2010, 2011, back when Obama first came in, the Yucca Mountain site was officially canceled, and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission stopped funding it. It is a site that cannot isolate the waste. It's earthquake prone. There was an earthquake during the Department of Energy's study of the site, which destroyed millions of dollars worth of the facility that was just studying the site. It's got potentially active volcanoes. It's on Native American land that is under the Western Shoshone Treaty of 1863, the Ruby Valley Treaty. Mm-hmm. We have no right to be putting nuclear waste in the ground. We only have the right to pass through that area. It's a violation of a treaty. It's a violation of native sovereignty. It's a violation of environmental justice. It's a violation of basic environmental principles. But since Congress chose Yucca Mountain in 1987, it has provided the delusion of a solution for nuclear waste. Mm-hmm. You can't isolate it yet. Under current law, it's the place that Congress has chosen. And Nevada said no then. Nevada will continue to say no. And right. It affects not just Nevada, but all of us along the way.
Yeah, I once heard a congressman who was trying to justify this push to reopen Yucca Mountain as the choice for our nuclear waste, and he was up there saying, Yes, it's the most geologically studied feature on the planet. And I'm like, well, yes, it was geologically studied, and the studies all proved Yucca Mountain is not suitable for storing nuclear waste. But the results of the studies don't seem to have an effect on these politicians that just want to be able to push some nukes there.
So,
That's right. And since it was canceled, there have been some court challenges, and the bills now in Congress, in both the House and the Senate, would, as you said, revive Yucca Mountain licensing process. So the site has not been actually licensed by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and that's what would need to happen. The Department of Energy is the applicant applying to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission for a license for this dump, and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission stopped processing the application when it was determined that Yucca should not be proceeded with by the administration. What Nevadans want to do now is to get Yucca Mountain off the table. Let's stop pretending that we have an answer for nuclear waste. If the licensing process is restarted, as is proposed in House Bill 2699 and Senate discussion draft in the U.S. Senate, there will be many, many hurdles to getting it licensed, and in fact, Nevada will never consent. So it's really a waste of time and energy if we're looking for what to do with nuclear waste to help communities that are stuck with it. This is not going to help them. Trying to force feed Yucca Mountain and start the most massive shipment of irradiated nuclear fuel, of dangerous nuclear material on our roads, rails, and waterways, as I said, through 87% of all congressional districts, through 44 of our states. That's what these bills would do to Yucca Mountain. So when the Yucca Mountain site was canceled, the law required then President Obama to have a plan B. Okay, what are we going to do instead? So what he did was to set up a blue ribbon commission to look at nuclear waste, and that blue ribbon commission, which had hearings and operated for a couple of years, was completely pro-nuclear. There was not one nuclear critic or person who was agnostic on nuclear on that panel. So the whole panel that Obama set up was looking for some kind of nuclear waste answer that would enable more nuclear waste to be generated. They were not really looking for only isolating the waste. The public call, which that committee never fully understood, has been to harden the waste for long-term but temporary storage at or near the places where it's generated. So let's not move it around while we figure out a permanent place or way to isolate it. Let's keep it as close to where it is, but get it up from the shore. Don't put it right on the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean. Bury it in the beach, like at San Onofre, California, or at Pilgrim, where they're putting it right by the water. Apparently they've moved that one back. But to have hardened on-site storage, the acronym is HOT, hardened on-site storage, and to have a better way of storing it and to give local communities more some say in how this danger is being handled. And there is a bill to provide funding to communities that are stuck with it to help them deal with the fact that the waste is at their locations, and many of them never signed up for it. And before we go, Joe, I do need to talk about the other big threat, which is the supposedly consolidated or centralized interim storage. Do we have time for that?
Yes, we do. So we'll come back to that. But I just want you to. Well, first I need to point out that it's not a surprise Obama packed his group with pro-nuclear people, because Exelon was one of Obama's biggest contributors. Exelon is a nuclear power plant company out of Chicago, or out of Illinois, where he was based. and they were one of the main funders of his campaign. And Obama actually created a pro-nuclear cadre or wing inside the Democratic Party that are still trying to. I mean, we've got a presidential candidate, some in that crowd there somewhere. A couple of them are actually pro-nuclear, and we're still suffering the political side effects of that. That the fact that they funded him and he was just so rabidly pro-nuclear that still the ones who should be protecting us from this scourge, essentially, a lot of them have been compromised into believing that nukes are a good choice. But I was wondering, since this is radio, Diane, if you could paint us kind of a graphic picture. Let's say we've got one of these trucks, and around here in Toledo, we've got tons of road construction constantly. The roads, I think, are breaking down as fast as they're repairing them. And so let's say we have a worst-case scenario. Let's say our erstwhile nuclear truck driver is heading down the road and has a T-bone with another semi-truck, and the casket's broken open. And worst-case scenario. Let's just paint a picture. Let's say that happens on I-75 near downtown, and which is a very cars are going fast. There's lots of construction. Right now, there's just little cones on two different lanes in different directions. What would happen if something like this were to happen?
Well, the amount of radioactivity in each of these containers is enormous. And if it were actually broken open and people were directly exposed, that shielding was somehow gone, the radioactivity would give almost immediate exposures, immediate death. The amount of radioactivity is just, you cannot be exposed to irradiated fuel unshielded.
So if you...
Irradiated fuel is the hottest part of the fuel chain. The industry and government started calling it spent fuel and used fuel quite a few years ago to take away the immediate meaning of the danger. But
so if you let's say you're on I-75 behind one of these trucks and you see this accident happen in front of you, and you stop and you call 911, shortly after that you'd be dead.
Well, if the radioactivity, if the canister was opened and the shielding was gone, then anybody who was exposed to it would get a lethal dose. Who was near in the vicinity. It's probably hard to break it open, but it is possible. And when we're talking about in the tens and teens of thousands of shipments, statistically, there's going to be some really bad accidents. The other possibility is that seals would be broken, or there might be a fire that would release radioactivity, and it would be dispersed, and people would be exposed to radioactivity and not even know it, and then get sick down the pike from radiation exposure. So it could be either. It could be immediate death, immediate or very short-term exposures, and then there's probably more likely that both are possible exposures of large numbers of people, and contamination of areas. Could be large areas that would be contaminated potentially permanently.
So, Diane, while you're talking, I was thinking of a friend of mine who lives in a neighborhood of North Toledo. He likes to come downtown and take me to the soup kitchen sometimes for lunch, only occasionally he doesn't make it because his neighborhood is either 15 minutes or an hour and a half from downtown, depending on whether there are trains, because Dennis has to cross 3 train tracks to get downtown on the same street. And they're positioned in such a way that you cannot get around them. If it's blocked where you go, then it's also blocked on the next street and the next street and the next street. And when I was driving cab, I used to run into these trains once in a while, and you would sit there and they would move very, very slowly for, about a half hour. And then they would stop for another 10, 15 minutes. Then they would back up. They would start backing up. In fact, my joke about the north side is that no one actually intended to live there. They just got stuck behind trains and got bored and started building a house. So poor old Dennis, my friend, is already from the generation that used to, and in social class, that used to play with both mercury and lead as children. He's not going to do well if these trains come along, is he?
Yeah, there's
So
trains everywhere here in Northwest Ohio, right?
Yeah, so that's two different situations. One is without any accident, there is radioactivity legally coming off the cask, but it's not a level that would cause immediate death. Any exposure to ionizing radiation can initiate cancers, reduce immunity, have a whole variety of health effects, some of which haven't even been fully studied. It also exacerbates existing conditions or existing dangers. Multiple exposures to different carcinogens or different stressors can initiate health effects. So that's the situation would be a routine exposure to people, someone at a truck stop where the trucks always stop, somewhere where it's a neighborhood where the trains go by all the time and the kids and the dogs and the families are in the backyards and the trains go by, and then having a routine exposure over decades is an additional risk. But then if there's an actual accident, it does have potentially big consequences that could be devastating.
Okay.
And that's less likely, but it's totally possible.
Right. Okay, so that is House Bill 2699, and Marcy Kaptur is the local congresswoman here in Toledo, and she used to be much more anti-nuclear. Back when Davis-Besse had its hole-in-the-head accident, she actually came out against nuclear power and said Davis-Besse should be shut down. Since then, she's kind of backed off on that. But so, Diane, I want to get to the thing that you wanted us to talk about, that you wanted to tell us about. We just have a little bit of time left, so go ahead and let us know what you wanted to tell us.
Okay, but I want to mention, because you talked earlier about the contribution to Obama when he was president and to other congressional members, both Republican and Democrat. So it should be understood with most polluting industries that have resources, such as the nuclear power industry, that they buy the committees of jurisdiction. So it doesn't matter if it's a House or a Senate leadership. They give so much money to the candidate, to the Congress, the Senate, the state officials that are on the committee that are supposed to oversee their industry, that those watchdog committees are normally just lapdogs. They're not watchdogs. And so we have a situation like that in the House. And we have people that should be watching out for us, supporting nuclear interests. So one of the ideas we just had that with House Bill 6, where they spent $50 million lobbying state legislators to pass it, and I saw. It's a great investment. How much money are they getting?
Yeah, they're getting about $1 billion. $50 million to get $1 billion. But I saw an interview with some of the Republicans who had gotten the largest amounts of money in the Columbus paper, and two of them are quoted as saying that the contributions have no effect on their decisions as legislators.
Oh, good.
And whenever I read, I'm always looking for that next sentence, and then the representative burst out laughing. Because it amazes me they could say that with a straight face. It's kind of amazing. Okay, so back to the topic you wanted us to cover.
Okay, so what the when the Yucca Mountain site was canceled, a blue ribbon commission was set up, as we said, a pro-nuclear commission to look at what to do with nuclear waste, and they were told that they could not consider the Yucca Mountain option. So what they looked at was finding a different permanent site, finding a supposedly temporary or interim site, never considered stopping making more, never considered what many of us advocated. We're talking about environmental groups and public interest organizations, religious, labor, from all 50 states, calls for hard and on-site storage, which means the temporary storage that's already going on at reactor sites should be done in a more secure way to, face the fact that there's nowhere it's going to get in a short amount of time, and everywhere it is, it needs to be stored better than it is now. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission is weakening how they're storing it now, or the requirements for protection at closed reactors. So the Blue Ribbon Commission suggested an idea that had been rejected 2 or 3 or 4 times before, which is centralized interim storage, consolidated interim storage. Previously, it had been referred to as away from reactor storage, monitored retrievable storage, and those concepts had been killed in congressional bills in the past or died. And that means taking the waste from reactors, moving it on the roads and rails to another location or locations that bring in waste from around the reactors in the country and store it there until there's somewhere else to store it permanently, and then move it again to that place. So consolidated interim storage, or horrible acronym CIS, is part of the legislation, the HR 2699, the discussion draft, and then there's also S1234 in the Senate and HR 3136 that legalize this centralized interim storage. Right now, it's not legal to have temporary storage it's not legal to have it, and it's not legal to have, it was never legal to have it without a permanent place, so that a temporary place would not become de facto permanent. It was also rejected to bring it to Yucca Mountain as a supposedly temporary site, because that would certainly bias the decision on whether to license the permanent site there. So
all right.
The state of Texas and the state of New Mexico are the targeted locations now, although there has been mumbling about other locations. And it means the similar amount of transport from reactors across the country to either the waste control specialist site in West Texas, it's down in the bottom west of the Panhandle, or 30 or 40 miles away near the Carlsbad Tavern is the New Mexico targeted site. The company there is Holtec, and it is partnered with a very corrupt Canadian company, SNC Lavalin, and the waste control specialist company is partnered with Orano, which has previously been called Arriva, which is a French company that reprocesses nuclear waste in France. And so both of these sites, there's a concern that if it did go there, they could start reprocessing it. Reprocessing it is an environmental disaster. It's a nuclear weapons proliferation danger. And these are communities that do not want it. They have passed resolutions along the way and at the sites. They are largely Hispanic. We're looking at another environmental racism concern with these sites. We're looking at massive transport and moving the waste across the country without really solving the problem. All it's doing is opening the door for more waste generation at the sites, and either way, it's going to take 40 or 50 years to move the 80,000 metric tons we already have.
All right. Well, Diane, I'm afraid we've run out of time here. So that was House Bill 2699 and Senate Bill, really 1234. That's the actual number. Did I get that right?
Yeah, it's a good one, right?
So easy to remember. So call your legislators and tell them don't irradiate me.
www.nirs.org. There's more information to the left under the actions and alerts. You can get a Don't Waste America campaign on our www.nirs.
All right. Well, thanks very much. That's www.nirs.org. So thanks very much, Diane.
Thanks.
Pleasure as always. And we got to move on. You too.
Bye.
All right. That was Diane talking about something that is, as we say at the beginning of every show, It's a threat to your health and your wealth. And because if one of these trucks or train cars derails or breaks open near you, you will have to abandon your home forever, and it might actually take you out as well. So anyway, on to more pleasant things. And there's few things more pleasant than our first sponsor, and that is the Wood County Park District. The Wood County Park District is a natural resources conservation agency. They protect natural spaces, maintain quality green spaces. They provide engaging programming that teaches people to love and respect nature. They help restore wildlife habitats, and they lead outdoor adventures. The Wood County Parks protects 20 parks and nature preserves around Wood County, which are open from 8 a.m. to 30 minutes past sunset every day of the year. And they have a couple interesting things coming up. On August 10th, they're going to have a forest therapy session, which is and after listening to all this stressful stuff, you might need some forest therapy.
Indeed.
Yeah. That's practicing the connection with yourself and the earth. And studies have shown that by practicing this connection, you reduce stress, help with depression, anxiety, blood pressure, heart rate, and it can help with symptoms of OCD and ADHD. This is a program that will cost $15, and the program facilitator is Jim Witter. And you register for that program at www.wcparks.org, or you can call the Wood County Park District at 419-353-1897. And then on August 23rd, they're having a similar Hiking for Health series. This one is free, and there you can join a naturalist for exercise and the wonder of watching the seasonal changes. The hikes offer a true mind-body connection, and again, that's being led by Jim Witter. And that one is going to be held at the Black Swamp Preserve, which is at 1014 South Maple Street in Bowling Green. So after listening to all this stressful stuff, maybe you should consider getting out to a Wood County park. And we're very happy to have them as a sponsor. Our other sponsor for this hour is Damar Consulting. Damar Consulting is a computer consulting company. They will come to your home and help you with your computing problems. So maybe you've got a computer that's not talking to your printer anymore. Perhaps you have a new computer and you want to transfer the data from one to the other, or you're having some problems with some software. These are the sorts of things that don't live with. Don't just let your computer become a big paperweight. Call Damar Consulting, and they will come out and help you, and they'll teach you. Everyone who works for Damar Consulting has a degree in computer science, so you know that they know what they're talking about. So the ways to get a hold of Damar Consulting are you can call by phone at 419-973-3000. That's phone or text. And you can also go to their website, which is simply damarconsulting.com. And Damar is spelled D-E-M-A-R-E, then the word consulting.com. So that's Damar Consulting for all your home computing needs. Okay. So, wow, we went a little long with Diane, but it's an important topic, and it's one that it's good we cover. I just have a quick update on House Bill 6 this year, a mildly optimistic update here. The organization, it's a company, it's an LLC called Ohioans Against Corporate Bailouts. This past week, they did file over 2,000 petition signatures to put this question of repealing House Bill 6 on the ballot. And the Attorney General has until August 8th to determine whether or not they'll accept the language of this resolution. And once they do, then they have until mid-October to gather about 270,000 petition signatures, valid ones, which means they're going to have to collect about 400,000 petition signatures. But they're determined to do it, and they've got some money, they've got some professionals working on it, and so it's possible that we may be able to, as Ohioans, vote on House Bill 6 and actually tell our legislatures whether or not we want money added to our electric bills to keep 2 coal plants and 2 nuclear plants running that are uneconomical and breaking down left and right and just a danger to us all. So fingers are crossed on that. So we're going to find out some more on August 8th. All right, so now we are into sort of the open part of the show, the sort of, free-for-all part of the program at 866-240-1065. I'm still hoping for a call from someone who can give us a firsthand account of what you're seeing in Lake Erie. Did you go out on your boat? Did you try to do some fishing? What are your personal experiences with this algal bloom? Or have you not seen anything? Do you have a beach house that you're out on the beach every day, just swimming and playing with the dog in the water, no problems? Unfortunately, I have a friend on Facebook whose son got a cut on his foot while swimming in Lake Erie and got a really serious bacterial infection. I guess that's, yeah, but he's all right, but he actually had to spend a couple days in a hospital.
Something happened to some girl in Florida, lost her foot or something, didn't she?
Yeah.
I think I heard about that.
Yeah, and I guess that's happening right here too in Lake Erie. But one thing that we decided to jump on a bandwagon with here is Shark Week. This is
Shark Week, bad fishies.
Yeah. So Rebecca, I think you have some information about sharks for us.
Right. Well, yeah, I don't really know. I mean, there's been a lot of reports of shark attacks over the last week in real life, not just on Shark Week. But yeah, I don't really know statistically whether they are up or whether it's just the media being the media. There's that. There's the flesh-eating bacteria, riptides, and cliff collapses are. We just had one of those in California.
Yeah.
From erosion, fall down, go boom.
All kinds of terrible things are happening. Yeah.
It was not good. Some people died.
Yeah. Whales are washing up in record numbers on pretty much all the coasts in the world, in the North Pacific and the Atlantic. And one thing about sharks, great white sharks, they feed on whales. That's one of the things. Well, dead whales, they act like scavengers. But so if there are fewer whales in the ocean, those sharks are going to have to look for something else to eat. And if we're out there splashing around, I think that could be kind of tempting. So.
Hungry fishies, right? Also, apparently, don't orcas eat sharks, right? They're the only thing that can eat a shark, basically.
Yeah, orcas eat sharks too. Yeah.
So sooner or later, they're going to get hungry if the sharks don't have anything to eat.
Yeah, if there are no sharks, if the sharks start dying off, and it's one of those weird illustrations of how everything is connected, right? Because a lot of these whales that are washing up dead, they have stomachs that are full of plastics and plastic bags and plastic fishing nets and so forth. And so people could be losing the plastic bags here, and they blow out and make their way into the ocean through the waterways, and then some whales eat them and die. And so then the sharks get hungry, and so the next time you go down to Myrtle Beach or something, maybe that shark will eat you.
I'm going to say there's a thing about the Great Lakes and pollution in the Great Lakes, and apparently it's giving cancer to fish in the Atlantic Ocean because of heavy metals from the Great Lakes factories, which started up in Superior or something and worked their way all the way through, because now we have the St. Lawrence Seaway and we're connected to the ocean and things. And
right, yeah. So it's just the news is not good, but we're making efforts. We're working on it. Most places of the country or the world are actually working on it harder than we are. Although we do. Tomorrow night there will be a second reading of a plastic bag ban in Bowling Green, Ohio. So there's some hope there.
Which they're saying now, actually, there was a site called earthgizmodo.com that had an article that said that they now believe that shark and ray dust from marine plastic are probably, there's a huge amount of reports of them on Twitter, more than the scientific literature suggests. So, yeah, they need people to report more of those, and there's probably more study needed. Really, the biggest threats are still of extinction for sharks, or I think overfishing and finning and bycatch. Bycatch from the shark fishing industry.
The shark finning, that's terrible. Where they catch an entire shark, it could be, and these sharks live a long time, so they could be catching like a 70, 80, 100-year-old shark, and they just cut the dorsal fin off for soup, and then they toss the shark back in, and the shark dies because it can't live without that fin, and it's just so somebody can have some soup. I mean, it's
have some class and eat the whole shark. Come on,
at least, don't waste the whole shark. But all right, so that's just kind of a quick and dirty look at lots of the quick and dirty things that are happening on the planet right now. So I think let's jump back to something pleasant again, and that is a letter from the future from my great-great-granddaughter.
Yay.
Yes, Marie I, who's living in the year 2299, a year where we've figured all this stuff out. We've stopped putting plastic in the ocean. We stopped putting carbon in the air. And so now she's living in the green future that this show is trying to bring us all to. And so she writes me a letter. Every Sunday morning, there's a flash of photons next to my bed there, and there's a letter from the future. So, dear great-great-grandpa, greetings from the year 2299. It's been a great week. I've been working out at the Kola Peninsula so long, I forgot how nice it is to be back with people that you know and love. It was Fair Week here, and I went to the fair and saw old friends I haven't seen in years. I rode my bicycle to the fairgrounds, and there was a huge community dance in the evening. The booths at the fair had all kinds of cool, fun, educational displays. My favorite was a virtual reality booth where I actually got to be a rotifer, which is an animal which is in plankton, and swim around catching other plankton. There were also virtual demonstrations of what it's like to be on other planets that are orbiting other suns in our galaxy. So I'm having a great time. I wish you were here. Love, Marie I. So Marie's kind of just having fun. Not time for a big long letter, but
All right.
but she's living at a time when people have incorporated what we know about ecology into the fabric of everyday life. I mean, that's one of the great mysteries, or one of the great mysteries to me, is the fact that we know all this stuff. We've got the scientific studies. We know that we have to stop putting carbon in the air. We know that we have to stop making this radioactive waste. And we know the ecological reasons and the ecological damage these things cause. But it's kind of like when they first discovered electricity. You know, they discovered electricity back in the 1700s. And scientists knew about it, and they told people about it, and they were sort of making demonstrations saying, oh, look, you could do this with electricity. Isn't that fun? But it wasn't until like almost 200 years later that they started actually building electric generating stations and using it to light our houses and heat our homes and things. And I kind of feel like that's where we're at with ecological sciences right now.
Makes sense.
Yeah, the scientists have pointed it out. They've described it to us, but it still somehow hasn't worked into our policies, our daily lives. And that's the leap we've got to make, or ecological science tells us it all collapses.
That's a little like the ancient Egyptians, and who the Romans had all these, or no, it's the Romans, the Roman Empire. Sorry, the Romans. They were very, very clever about a lot of things. They had like this kind of cement that actually got harder when you put it in seawater, and
they invented cement.
A lot of their earthworks or their cement works are still standing when more recent stuff has crumbled after 10, 20 years.
Right. Yeah.
They were really very, aqueducts, all that. They were smart guys, but they didn't really work very hard on inventing things like cranes or labor-saving devices because they had an endless supply of slaves.
Mm-hmm.
It was right there, They were not too dumb to learn how to do this stuff. They could have started on it right there and then. They had similar things that had similar levels of engineering sophistication, but they were just like, nah, we'll let the slaves do it.
Yeah, that's the problem with having slaves. You get lazy, you know.
Totally, yeah.
So, which is one of the reasons it's good that we got rid of slavery. Although now
there's a good side effect. Yeah.
Although now we essentially have a lot of wage slavery. That is, people working who aren't earning enough money to survive.
That or mass incarceration. Yup.
Yeah. So anyway, but those are social issues. We stay more on the ecological here. And we had a visit from Elizabeth Warren, one of the presidential candidates, this past week. And I guess she at least mentioned global warming, right?
She said something about we have to start fighting it right now.
Well, that's true.
There were 110 Democratic candidates, so they all got 5 seconds apiece. But she said that.
Yes, well, that's a good thing to use your 5 seconds on.
Right.
And so, thank you very much for joining us. I think we're just about out of time. we didn't get a call this week at 866-240-1065, but save up a question for next week. We're going to be ready for you. And I just want to say I'm very grateful that you stuck with us. I know a lot of you, you're listening for sports, and don't worry, Mick Gonzalez and the cheap seats, they're on their way. They'll be here promptly at 9. But this is something we all have to do together. I mean, it's not something that any small group of us or splinter group can force on everyone else. We all just have to learn to live with the planet and with the ecology. And I'm hoping that we do that, help you learn that a little bit each week on For a Green Future. So, Rebecca, thanks for co-hosting this week.
And thank you.
And we will see you next week on the radio.
Must be avenged.
Who?
The Christmas weed that got sprayed.
Oh, the Christmas weed, yeah. Our condolences to those who loved the Christmas weed that the Heartless municipality saw fit to spray herbicides on.
Indeed.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
All right. So long, and this is Joe Damar signing off.
Time we was done. I don't want them nukes run by them kooks who think radioactivity is fun. No more three-headed frogs or kids with leukemia. Nuclear power ain't fit for a dog. The sun